This is something I've wanted to do for a while now. It started over 2 years ago with a short that asked a simple question. Why couldn't I make a server like Hypixel? Well, it turns out there are a lot of reasons, but namely because I just couldn't face the enormity of the project. Until now. Anxiety is not going to hold me back any longer. I want to do this, so I will do this. It won't be immediately how I envision it, but I know I can create a start. So if you're with me, let's finally create an MMORPG in Minecraft. Alright, this server has a lot of components, but I've broken it down into 6 main categories that we need to cover. For the next little while, I'm zooming in on the first of them, the meat of the server, which is the stats and leveling system. However, it's such a big topic that I'm setting aside 2 videos for it. One where we flesh out the system, and the second where we apply it to the opening challenges which define each player's starting stats, and a few other bits. Therefore, for today, our goal is to create 3 main things. A level for the player and for all mobs which the player can increase by gaining XP. A way for the player to spend stat points gained at each level to increase their stats. And a meaningful impact for each stat as the player increases it. To look at the first, we need to think about our UI or our user interface. In Minecraft, the player has a few areas where we can put information. The first is the most obvious. We can display a title and a subtitle. Then we can put something in the top corner in the form of a status effect. We can leave something in the hotbar. We can send a message in the chat, and we can update the action bar. And finally, we can change their level. Since we're going to have a custom enchanting system anyway, this area is not in use, and so we will have it to display the player level and the progress towards the next. For mobs, the decision is simpler. We only have one real place to display information, and that's above their head. Therefore, we will cram the level of the mob, the name of the mob, and the health and max health of the mob into the space of its name tag, just as they do in Hypixel. Boom, that's the easiest item complete. Now we need the players to be able to spend the 5 stat points they earn every time they level up. And for that, we need to dig a bit deeper into our options for GUI and player interaction. In the framework we have for vanilla Minecraft, we can only do things that are actually in the base game. Therefore, the only way for us to make a clean menu for the player is to build it ourselves. I'll take a chest GUI and strip it bare, then add a title to make it look professional. Now, to add a bit of pizzazz, we will fill in the whole thing with black stained glass, leaving only the parts the player can click as something different. I'm going to make a main menu accessed by this helpful little selector item, and then use these spots to create an intuitive shape. For now, the only available features are stats, magic, and legacy, and for today we focus on stats. The UI on this can be simple. We'll show the 9 stats, and the player may click to assign 3 stat points to any stat however they wish. And there we are, that's the second part completed. Time's flying by, but it's time for the hardest of the 3 parts of this video, making the stats actually do something. The best way for us to get this done is just to knuckle down and go through them one by one. Strength. This means that melee weapons deal more damage. For this, I had to casually cook up a custom damage system, which nullifies normal damage, applies my own knockback, and then calculates based on the weapon and strength of the attacker and defense of the defender to change the HP of the defender. Then, if the defender has less than 0 HP, they die. Agility. This is almost the same, but works for ranged weapons. Funnily enough, while implementing this, I accidentally made blazes and skeletons be able to do damage, which was an unintended good side effect. Intelligence. This scales ability damage, which we can't really go into here. It did mean I made an entire magic system before I wanted to be bothered, but that's for a couple videos' time. Wisdom. Fine, since this also relates to abilities, here's a sneak peek of the UI that I've cooked up. Constitution. This just linearly scales health, and since health's regen is based off health, also that. Toughness. This scales both types of defense at the moment, although I'd like to split them into magical and physical in the improved stat system when making next video. Endurance. To be honest, this one was so annoying. For now, it just makes it so you get less hungry, but I want to give myself extra inventory slots as well at some point. Charisma. Okay, this one I'm just not even going to try right now. NPCs are a whole topic in themselves, but rest assured the AI NPCs in that one short I made will make an appearance. Finally, luck. You know what? I think this is genuinely going to be saved for one of the last things I code this whole project. Damn, I think that's it. Oh, I did forget to mention that mobs scale differently with levels. For example, a zombie gets more constitution per level, but a skeleton gets more agility. Besides that, I think we're finished. We gave ourselves and mobs levels and made the mobs scale in stats. We gave players the ability to upgrade their stats, and then we made the stats do something. And we cleanly displayed these things in overhead display, action bar, and GUI. Pretty successful start to this series, in my opinion, but we do still have another part to the stats, and then another 5 major aspects of the server to cover, at least. And that's just to get the bare bones working. Believe me, I have the ideas right now to make this thing a lifetime project. Anyway, let me know what you guys thought about this start, and I'll see you in the next one.